So I'm driving down in this yellow Beetle, me and Claire, and we got Sammy in the back seat. He was 6 months old. And then the police are chasing us, and then there's a helicopter, and they pull us over. And I used to hide the rocks in my nose, yeah? I hide them there. Yeah. I'm your dad. I did the best I could, but I fell short in many other ways.
How did you accept it?
Well, I just sat down with him and said, oh, well, Dad, don't worry about it. Let's smoke some heroin together. And I've never met a stupid drug addict. I'm not just a crack and heroin addict.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I'm not just a recovered crack and heroin addict. I'm a professional recovery coach whose lived experience has been integrated in a professional way to improve treatment.
Welcome to Choose Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Abna Mariri, author, survivor, and changemaker. Each episode delves into victorious stories over addiction. We bring hope and actionable guidance to those on this journey. Choose transformation with us. Choose victory. Choose life.
My guest today embodies the essence of a pioneer and visionary. With a wealth of experience as a master coach, he has dedicated many years to the domains of addiction recovery, wellness, and personal transformation. He is the esteemed founder of Ubuntu Addiction Trust, a non-profit and public benefit organization providing training services in the substance abuse field. Allow me to introduce and to present to you David Collins, a name synonymous with excellence and positive change. It's with immense pleasure and honor to have you, David. Your reputation precedes you. Thank you so much for joining us, man. It's good to catch up with you once again.
Thank you.
You obviously got a history with addiction. Can you share us your journey with addiction?
So I grew up in a home where my father really struggled with alcohol, and it was a violent home. And I said I would never turn out to be like my father. And then I went down the path of drugs, and I always said, well, at least I'm not drinking, because I think alcohol is way worse than any drugs there. And then I ended up becoming a crack and heroin addict, and that was really, that really brought me to my knees. And when I was 30 years old, I woke up in a treatment facility with 2 ex-wives and 3 kids. And my kids were in foster care. They'd been taken away by the Wynberg Magistrates Court in Cape Town. And I really just had to look at myself and just have that honest conversation with myself that I've really effed things up, and I turned out to be a lot worse than my father. And then the shame of that awoken the spirit inside of me to kind of recover and to change. And so the shame of realizing who I'd become motivated me to do whatever it took to change the way I was.
Let's back up a little bit. You share about the fact that you come from a home that struggled with alcohol. Are you suggesting that there's a direct correlation between your use and that kind of background?
So me growing up in a home, a white middle-class home in Cape Town. My father was a lecturer at UCT. He was an academic, and he was respected because he spoke well. He was educated. But he was a chronic alcoholic, and when he didn't drink, he was fantastic, and when he did drink, he was really difficult to live with. And that plays out in one's childhood. So growing up as a kid, I thought, when I looked at my parents' behaviour, I thought what they were doing was the norm. And then one day I suddenly realised at school that my family was different from other people's family, and then the stigma and the shame of what was going on at home embodied me. And so I started to behave in ways to try and hide that shame, to cover it, to just...
Did you struggle with alcohol as well?
So yes, but that's not really my thing.
Yes.
You know? I mean, it was really the...
It was a gateway.
Yeah.
It was an intro to...
Yeah, and the relationship with alcohol is very different from illicit drugs because it's legal.
Yes.
Yeah, so
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and so in those days it was dacha, and marijuana, and the message was don't smoke that stuff. The communists are supplying it, and
the propaganda that went with it.
Yeah, it was madness. And I'm really pleased they've actually legalized marijuana here and decriminalized it because.
Why are you pleased?
Because it's when something is banned and goes underground, it goes underground. So it doesn't help in stopping it. Yeah. So the war on drugs has failed, The World Health Organization in 2016 have acknowledged that, and the people that have been really being impacted by the war on drugs are communities and families, and it's not really helping the people that it's meant to be helping. So the World Health Organization is taking more of a medical, psychoeducational approach, a harm reduction approach to all drugs, and if you compare addiction to the gambling industry, the gambling industry is regulated now, and the government takes taxes from that, and it has to be allocated to help problem gamblers. So instead of gambling being illegal, it's now legalized. It's created jobs, and there are still problem gamblers, but there's help for them. Yes. And so that approach should be going towards all drugs.
Talk about self-destructive behaviors. Obviously, when your drug of choice, you said, was crack and heroin. Which came first?
So the heroin came first, but my journey was one of exploration. So I just want to try something once, and then I'll do it. Yeah. And then when you try something once and it's nice, you want to try it again. Yeah. And then you want to try again.
And you think you have the willpower to control it.
all that stuff, and slowly it creeps up on you.
Talk to me about your turning point. You know, there's a guy there looking, watching, who maybe just had a crack pipe, and all of a sudden they see this podcast and say, let me watch a little bit. You had a turning point moment yourself in your using.
Sure.
What brought about that turning point?
My father actually came to me in Hackney in London, and he came to do what's called a step 12. Yeah, he was got involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, and
he wanted to quit.
Yeah. He had, and he came to kind of carry the message to me as well, and also do a step 9, which is making an amend, and just making, listen, I'm your dad. I did the best I could, but I fell short in many other ways.
How did you accept that?
Well, I just sat down with him and said, "Oh well, Dad, don't worry about it. Let's smoke some heroin together." and that's why because this is how we learned how to relate to each other. And so that's what we did. But it planted a seed, and a few months later, I went from medical. I was working at a bank in London, and I went from medical, and I just said, "Listen, I got this problem with heroin." Because you become physically addicted to opiates,
correct.
And then the withdrawal process it's not like an amphetamine. No. It's not like meth or cocaine or something. Anyway, and then I went to my first treatment centre in the UK. And I lasted 2 weeks there, and I got kicked out for smoking dope in the facility. And
so you brought in dope in the facility?
Well, my Claire, my partner at the time, bought in a pair of jeans, and inside the pocket there was something. So it's not like we smuggled it in, but once I found it, I thought,
it's accidental.
Yeah. It's, And so that was my first attempt. And then I went to a couple of outpatient programs. And then I went to, I thought the problem is the UK, let me come back to South Africa.
Is this where the genesis of the foundation?
Well, this was in '94, so I wanted to come back because of the elections, and I wanted to come back and make a difference, and all I really did was come back with a crack and heroin habit. And heroin really wasn't that big in the Cape, and neither was cocaine, but it started to come. So the drugs of choice in those days were Mandrax and Falconol.
It was Mandrax. Mandrax was big, eh? But you come back from the UK and you continue with your drug. When was your turning point?
So 96. So I spent 3 years in Cape Town trying to sort things out, trying to be a successful drug dealer, because heroin started to arrive, and I thought, okay, well, I know this game, and then the crack arrived. There was that shootout with Pagat and the Hard Livings in London Road, and me and Claire were chased down.
You were there, David?
Yeah. We had a helicopter chase us. Like the amount of money the police spent on. So I'm driving down in this yellow Beetle, me and Claire, and we got Sammy in the back seat. He was 6 months old, and then the police are chasing us, and then there's a helicopter, and they pull us over, and I used to hide the rocks in my nose. I hide them there, and I laugh about it now, but it's also, if I think about that, like that is a situation that happened. Sure. It's anyway, and then they
sounds like a movie.
It's and then they search the baby, look in the baby's nappy. They take Claire into the police station. She gets a internal search, and you just got to kind of think like, what are we doing to people?
Yeah, correct.
How did they impact the police?
Yeah.
The amount of money for a helicopter, the man hours, the criminal, it's insane.
Because it's not only the helicopter, it's on the ground as well.
Yeah, it's all over and then it's her family, and then it's my family, and it's society, the nursery school where we drop the kids off. They kind of,
watch that guy, Looney Tunes.
But it was completely bonkers.
So Claire eventually divorced you?
No, well, Claire went into rehab. So the setup is often if only she wasn't with him.
Yep.
Yeah, the
bad element.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. It was his. If only she wasn't with him. And she went into rehab, and the kids were taken away. She was in rehab, and I was kind of left to kind of my own devices. And then I had a spiritual awakening. Yeah, I had a white light experience. I'd been up for 3 days. I don't know if it was just a psychosis or it was actually. But whatever it was, it changed me. Yeah, it was like I just felt grace come over me, for want of a better word, and I started crying. It was 3 a.m, and I just knew that everything was going to be all right. And I thought God was talking to me to tell me to go and sell crack for the Hard Livings to help street children. So I was very confused, very confused. But that experience started to shift my spirit. So when people enter into recovery, there's often a spiritual change that needs to happen first. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking about a change of a spirit. There's like something inside you kind of goes, I can't go on like this. Something's got to give. And then I went into rehab for the 4th time, and nobody thought I was going to change. They said, we've heard it all, we've heard it, this and
we've
this.
seen
everyone,
this is another movie playing through.
And then people started to notice I was changing, and then that impacted the system as well. So what happened with my relationship with Claire is she ran off with my friend who was still using, because actually she didn't know how to relate to who's this clean, squeaky guy now. Yeah,
my goodness.
And that's a real relationship dynamic.
But she'd been to rehab.
Yeah, but that's yeah.
We can go 5 times, 6 times.
Yeah. That's
it's neither here nor there.
Anyway, I stayed the path, and I really wanted my kids to come out of foster care, but I had no job or anything to look after them. And she went back to using, and then 6 months later, she threw in the towel as well. Yeah, and our one son came back after a month just because he was really not coping well. He lost a lot of weight and all that. And then Sammy came back about 9 months later. But I left Cape Town and came to Joburg because it was too much there and I wanted to start again. So I came to Joburg and then I started washing dishes at a place called the Drum Cafe in Greenside.
In Greenside.
And
Drum Cafe.
Yeah. And I was into IT, and then I got a job at the stock exchange.
Oh my goodness.
Fixing the computers.
From kitchen to the computers.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd had my work in London before. So I mean, one thing about an addict personality, is it's very entrepreneurial.
No, incredibly entrepreneurial.
And always wants to make a plan and do things, and it's got a very curious mind.
Yeah, true.
And I've never met a stupid drug addict. Yeah, in fact, it's the opposite. They're often very clever, and it's the torment of the intellect that drives people to have a chemical holiday.
How did all of this lead to coaching, recovery coaching?
So I became what's known as a 12-step Nazi. Yeah,
12-step Nazi.
Yeah, I was like, this is what worked for me. It's the only way, and like, this is what you got to do. And it worked for me, and
it must work for you.
Yeah, it must work for you, and started the foundation. It was called Sharp at the time.
Yeah, Sharp. Is there acronym to Sharp?
Yeah, that was Self-Help Addiction Recovery Program. Yeah. And we stole the name from a place that I went to in London called Sharp. But anyway, so I started this facility, and it was a Minnesota model, which is basically where you take 12-step, a 12-step program and stick it in a professionalized environment. And it took us 7 years to get registered with the Department of Health and Department of Social Development and
7 years.
Town planning and all that stuff. Bureaucracy really holds this country back. But anyway, being defiant and the self-will says, well, we're doing it anyway.
So 7 years you get your license?
Well, yeah, we got our license. We're licensed for 24 beds. We can provide detox, medical detox, and psychosocial education for 21 days.
For 21 days, yeah.
And but I started, something in my spirit started to niggle at me again, because I would see families that were desperate. They'd bring their loved ones to treatment. They'd throw money to get their loved one well, but the loved one didn't want treatment. And the treatment approach was, well, let's beat this person with a stick of denial, tell them how bad they are and all this. And it just felt abusive and wrong. And I was working at JP Morgan at the time, and I'd done some men's work, and on the men's work, I met some life coaches. And I said, what's a life coach? And they said, a life coach is someone who sits down and helps someone with their life, talks to them. And I said, well, I do that all the time. I want to be a life coach. How much do you charge? And they said, 1,500 Rand an hour. And I said, I want that job.
You're already doing it.
So I went and got some training. So I went and I spent...
You've got some water there.
100,000 Rand on an American Coactive Training Institute.
100K?
Yeah.
What did the program offer?
But basically they offered coaching, and it was ICF accredited, International Coaching Federation. It was very Americanized
Centric.
package. That's the... And But while I was on this coaching training, I thought this would be really good for our clients at the clinic. And then I Googled recovery coaching, and there was a guy called in Chicago, his name's William White.
William White. Okay.
And he's been researching mutual aid groups, fellowships, all sorts of things. And he spoke about recovery coaching and peer recovery specialists and a whole lot of roles that are needed. And I thought, I'm gonna pursue this recovery coaching thing. And we started to change the ethos of the clinic. So we started to move to a biopsychosocial model.
Okay.
And the biopsychosocial model is addresses the biology of the individual. So you need your biology fixed up. The psychoeducation side of it. So you need to be educated about feelings and trauma and all this sort of stuff. And then the social element is the environment that you find yourself in, so you can socialize and practice the tools that you've been learning. So the therapeutic environment at the clinic is what helps people get well. Yeah, so you'll come into the clinic and you'll relate with the other patients there, and you'll start to interact, and you'll learn stuff that'll start you on your journey of recovery. Now, recovery is a process; it's not an event. You had your ups and downs and stops and starts and try this place, that place. And we measure success in the way that we follow our client through the process. So we started to change things and to adjust things. And then I went to WITS and I did a master's in business and executive coaching. And then I thought, well, why don't I do my thesis on the theory and practice of recovery coaching? And there was no kind of theory around it. There's very little history.
There's not much written about it.
So the research methodology that I used was something called action research, which basically means you make it up as you go along. You try something, you make a mistake, you adjust.
You basically are pioneer in the field.
And from that, I also then learned how universities are structured and academia and that kind of Babylon system there just really doesn't create an environment to help a traumatized nation. So how can we create a training that is going to be suitable for the African context, where we've got 11 different languages here, 12 if you want to include sign language, and how can you get recovery out there to the masses? So the training that I've put together has addresses that problem. And it's about empowering individuals to meet individuals where they're at and to take a bottom-up approach. So instead of being the kind of, the whitey that goes into a township and says, this is what you need to do to stop taking drugs, it's more like, okay, what needs to happen here so that we can create recovery capital so that people, if they want to change their life, there are resources available for them. And I really, like our slogan now is we've got an African solution for a global problem. And we've taken this kind of philosophy to the UK, to Australia. I mean, it really blew my mind. I was working with the police crime commission. They put money up for us to train community peer mentors. And community peer mentors are people from the community to come in to help reduce the impact of substance abuse on the police and on the National Health Services. So I'm there working with the police, and the police are trying to be compassionate and trying to kind of love these drug addicts. And in my head, I'm thinking, shit, this is a bit of this is a bit like the TRC. It's like there's me working with the enemy, but it's been wonderful healing work.
Our conversation will continue shortly. As you watch our podcast today, you may be facing challenges with one or other form of addiction, or know someone who actually is. Trust me, I've been there. and I want to help you. Visit upna.africa to download a complimentary workbook designed to support your journey toward overcoming addiction. This workbook, filled with exercises and activities, has helped me and countless others to stay clean. It's absolutely free of charge at upna.africa. Start your path to recovery now. Let's conquer addiction together. And remember to log on to upna.africa.
So obviously the Foundation Clinic goes through a transformation in terms of what you offer from a rigidity, structured Nazi type 12-step to more different. So I want to hear what those approaches are at the Foundation Clinic that you offer. And by the way, you changed the name from SHARP to Foundation Clinic.
Yeah, we changed it to the Foundation Clinic, and mainly I wanted to move away from my name.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
So what do you mean? Your name associated with?
Yeah. Like the Foundation Clinic must survive, regardless of whether I'm there or not. Yeah,
wow, that's profound.
And also it's a multidisciplinary team.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counselors, coaches, nurses. And you need a multidisciplinary team. To support the biopsychosocial model.
For sure.
And the biopsychosocial model is a form of treatment that works best around the world. And what you...
What are the components of it, if you can unpack it for us?
Well, you have a multidisciplinary team, And the idea is you get everyone on the same page as to what recovery is. And so if somebody relapses, there's a way that person can be treated with kind of love, care, and compassion, and understood it's part of a process, as opposed to, he's failed, it's useless.
Because that's what we know.
Beginning.
Send him back to the beginning, So you use it as part of his recovery.
So really, I mean, it's the stigma that needs to be dealt with. And a lot of medical professionals don't want to work with people with substance use disorder because of the antisocial component that goes with it and the chaos that goes with it. And we're difficult people.
Yeah, correct.
We're stubborn. Stubborn.
We know it all.
Stubborn, arrogant, filled with pride,
conceited.
All that stuff.
But at the Foundation Clinic, what are the programs that you offer?
First of all, it's a process,
It's a process,
and it starts with an assessment, And because we're a public benefit organisation, and we're not driven by profits, the places that are driven by profit, if I come to you and say I've got a problem, you're going to want to maximise the financial gain out of So what makes us different is, let's just start with an assessment first, and let's see what resources are available for you. Let's see where you are in the process, and let's start with moving you in that direction. Now, some people are chronic and they need to be admitted straight away, and they've got a medical aid which will part fund treatment. And other people, they can just attend an outpatient program. Some people just need to see someone one-on-one for a bit. Some people really haven't got a drug problem. They've got some other problem that they need to go and address. The substance abuse is just a symptom, of that. So that's one of the ethoses that make us different. And because we're a Section 18A public benefit organisation, and we have three things there: to train people, empower individuals so that they can then go off and provide better treatment in their areas. And the Foundation Clinic is our flagship. This is best practice. This is what works. This is what the latest thinking is. This is
years and years of research to get it to
years and years of making mistakes. years and years of going to conferences and seeing what's happening around the world, constantly changing. So working with psychiatrists and psychologists and traumatologists dealing with trauma, bringing those people in as part of the multidisciplinary team and getting the team to work together is
to provide
is
that
what's
ultimate
going
solution,
to. It's like getting the teachers in a school to work together.
Yeah, correct.
But if the teachers are fighting with the parents,
it's a problem.
the kids get away with murder. But in schools where the governing body and the teachers and that come together and unite, you get a much better educational environment for the school kids. So the word clinic comes from French. It means place of bedside learning. Place of bedside learning. So we...
Please repeat that.
Place of bedside learning. Okay. So if you come to us, our job is to treat you as a student.
My goodness.
Yeah, so that you learn about skills that you can take out into the outside world. Yeah. So we need to create an adult learning environment that has some structure, the ABC, action, behavior, consequence. You need structure. You need, when things are going well, you need to praise them. When things are going poorly, that needs to be addressed. And there needs to be an environment where people learn through play and actually enjoy being there. And you need to have a place where the professionals meet the patients where they're at. So a lot of patients feel shame about their behavior, so they won't have an honest conversation with their psychiatrist or their doctor because of the stigma.
The stigma. You founded Ubuntu Addiction Community Trust. What is the distinction between that and the foundation, and how did it come about?
So while I was working at JP Morgan, they said to me, David, we don't know what you do. We know you do a lot of good work. We have a CSI requirement for working in South Africa. Here's 100,000 rand to go and set up a public benefit organisation. It needs to be Section 18A, so you can get tax-deductible donations from it. And it needs to have a whole lot of governance around it. And so go off and do it. And I thought 100,000 rand, okay, well, what are we going to do with 100,000 rand?
It's not much,
we can treat 5 people at 20 grand each. At best, we'll have 3 out of those 5 be successful. Why don't we rather take 20 people that have shown a commitment to recovery and then skill them up so that they can go and create recovery capital in their communities. And so that's why we focused on training. The reality was that 100,000 rand, we gave KPMG 70,000 of it because that's how much it costs to set up the paperwork and the governance. And then when you go out into the business world and say, okay, guys, align with our charity, make it part of your CSI strategy. People go, oh, well, we don't want to be seen, our brand associated with drug addicts. We'd rather, Cotlands or cancer or something else. It's like drug addicts, that's not very sexy.
Yeah, it's not. The concept of recovery capital, I hear you talk about it. What is it, and can you unpack it, David?
Okay, so recovery capital is... First of all, the term is, capital is it's like resources. So recovery resources. And then you get internal recovery capital and external recovery capital. So internally, you might want to change. You might wake up one day and say, I want to stop this behavior, I want to change my life, and you wake up and you want to change. But the environment that you're living in, there are no resources to help you change. So for you to survive and to provide for your family, you're having to sell drugs, and because there's no external resources. So when you're engaging with someone, you need to see where's their willingness, and if they have got the willingness, what's available to them post-treatment. Yeah. So in the UK, for example, there's lots of recovery capital. They've got housing. They've got free medical. They've got
The list is long.
The list is long.
Groceries for free.
All that sort of stuff. But a lot of people don't have the internal spirit for that, the internal recovery capital. And this one charity I've been working with, Recovery Connections in Middlesbrough for the past 7 years. They took a different approach because you'd have statutory services arguing amongst themselves. So you can only get help once you're clean. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't get clean because I've got no housing. I've got no. So what they started to do is to start to meet people where they're at, and to start like, okay, you're using drugs, that's fine, but you're homeless. Let's get you into a place. So you can carry on using drugs, that's fine, but we'll provide housing and we'll and then what happens is they would walk along with the person, and the person would then say, well, you know what? I want to change now, and there's
they've got a base from which to function from.
So there's the CHIME model. Well, okay.
Which model?
The CHIME model. The CHIME model. CHIME model. It's developed by Professor David Best, Leeds University, and he talks about that. What the CHIME model is to get people to want to change. So there's connectedness. Yes. Hope, identity, meaning, and empowerment. So somebody that's homeless, that's been using, that then moves into a recovery community. You can start to connect and build stories, and this platform will be part of getting people connected.
And you can hear other stories of people who were where you at, and who
that
progressed.
Would be the hope.
That's the hope.
So if that bloody Abner could sort his life out, then I can too.
And he sounds like he was worse off than me.
Okay, so that instills hope. Okay, identity. I can relate to this. I can
identify.
I can identify. These are my people. I belong here.
They know me.
Meaning.
Yes.
Okay, this gives me meaning and purpose in my life.
That's brilliant.
And then empowerment. Okay, now I've got this, how can I get some skills around that? So what they're doing in the UK is they're taking lived experience. So somebody with lived experience gets trained up and takes their lived experience to professionalize it. So I'm not just a crack and heroin addict. I'm not just a recovered crack and heroin addict. I'm a professional recovery coach whose lived experience has been integrated in a professional way to improve treatment outcomes. Because I might not relate to the psychiatrist, but if I can build, if I can work with my coach to help me build rapport with my psychiatrist, it's going to be a better system.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. Absolutely. It actually is profound for me, just in terms of how you've explained it. Ubuntu, where does that come from? Is it from a context? So my definition of Ubuntu and what we do at the clinic is that we leave no man, woman, or child behind. Leave no man, woman, or child behind.
We've got everyone's impacted by this. We've all got to kind of work this out together. So I've trained many people, and they've gone off and they've opened up rehabs, and it's become a business. And people are thinking with commercial
this is
mindset.
Ubuntu addiction.
And so what we have to do as a public benefit is just think, well, is this benefiting everyone? Is this part of? And it's hard for me to unlearn it. Unlearn my kind of white westernized thinking.
No, it's very difficult.
But because I mean the war on drugs was started by mainly white Republican men in the States around the 30s. And that agenda has been spread across the world. So it's like unpacking that stigma of it all.
This is profound, David, and just in terms of the wealth and the depth of what you've been through and the kind of stuff that you have come up with. Are you seeing successes in the training, the Ubuntu?
Well, I'm looking at you. I mean, I'm filled with hope.
Yes.
Some days it's lonely. Pioneering you can receive a lot of criticism for that. COVID really helped us because we're using technology to reach more people, and so the Pocket Rehab, which was an app we had that we want to take the concept of a clinic to somebody's bedside. The bedside, everyone's got a bed at home. We can take a clinic to someone's home, which would reduce costs and everything. So using tech to work around those things, educating people to become professionals. The tragedy of Life Isidameni was something that really woke me up and said, shit, we've got to do something here. So then it's like, how do you build capacity? So we got the tech to do it, then we just need to build the capacity, and once you've created the workforce, how do you keep that workforce sustainable, and then to try and get money. So we can create jobs, but how do we get people to pay for those jobs, get paid for those jobs? And these are the sort of the challenges, because the research shows that when you use a coach or somebody with lived experience to come in to improve treatment outcomes, you reduce the cost of the medical system and on the judicial system.
And on the judicial system a lot.
So,
recovery coaching, David, the actual training. Can you unpack that? How is it designed? What do you offer?
So we've broken it up into 5 modules, And the first module is the conversation.
The conversation.
How do you have a coaching conversation? And we use the symbol of headphones. So, and the reason that we do that is we want somebody to be able to draw in the sand and to have a classroom and to talk about a symbol. So we use headphones to symbolize listening. So as a coach, how do I listen to you? So the problem in the world is not the person telling the story. The problem in the world is the person listening to the story. So for you to sit there and to hear my story and to create the environment and hold me in a space of wellness that I can come up with a solution to my problems and you can signpost me to various areas, that is the first part. The second part is glasses. Glasses.
Normal glasses.
Normal glasses. So it's like that. Can you see where the person is going? Am I moving towards premature death or am I moving towards high well-being? Is my using going to harm reduction? Towards complete abstinence, or is it escalating? So when you're working with kids, with children, children as growing up, they go and take drugs because it's part of growing up. It's part of them breaking away from their parents, and the parents will go, oh my God, my son's smoking dacha. Oh, he needs rehab, and the family and the kids just experimenting, as opposed to some 35-year-old who's sitting in his room smoking weed all day and playing PlayStation, so you've got to kind of be able to see where this person's at. The third one is the system. So you've got to start to understand when you go in and you use coaching within a system, how does the system change? So we talk about 2 cultures. We talk about a culture of addiction where people are focusing on the problem, or we talk about a culture of recovery or a culture of resilience where the system starts to come up with solutions for the individual. Then we have the 4Q leadership model.
This is the fourth.
So it's like 4Q to
4Q.
leadership.
Oh, 4Q to leadership.
There's some, because leadership's often command, control, tell. We're not doing that. There's IQ, so you need technical abilities. There's EQ, emotional abilities. SQ, spiritual intelligence. You've got to do things for the right reason. So and so ethics and doing things, you need to you're dealing with desperate families that are in crisis, that don't know what's going on, and they will do anything, and there's some unscrupulous, there's a lot of, there's some dodgy places out there, And then the fourth leadership skill is political intelligence. You need to be able to build relationships with people. So for me, going to build relationships with the police that used to be the perpetrator for me, I had to kind of work on stuff, and just to see the humanness and the genuineness in the police just really want to
they want to...
They're tired of the drama coming to the station, and then the final one is creating containers, creating groups.
The final is creating
a container. So those are the skills we want to pass on to someone. So we're taking this to Cricket SA.
Cricket SA.
Cricket SA. Now, Cricket SA have got the Hub program.
Yeah, the Hub. Yeah, I know the Hub.
And the Hub program works with children from 6 years old, going right up to national level.
Yes.
They've got 70 hubs around the country.
Yeah.
And they know how to coach cricket.
Yeah, they do.
We've partnered with them where we're training the coaches in recovery coaching so they can sit down and provide some kind of mental first aid to the kids and the families that are coming to the cricket program.
That's brilliant.
So there we're coaching the coaches so that they can use cricket as a medium to help with mental health and stigma that is impacting.
Man, this is beautiful because, I commend Cricket SA because they brought me in to train their coaches maybe 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Across the country,
Wow.
Because they interface. I went to a conference, I think in Neisner.
Hey, God works in mysterious ways.
And I spoke at the KFC conference, and out of KFC obviously worked with Cricket SA at the time, so
they're still working with
They're still working with them. So I met a guy, brilliant guy, David, and Danny Jordan's brother, who was in charge of transformation there. They said, please, can you help us? So I designed a course for them and went literally across the country.
Okay, great. So
it's amazing that I want to commend them, Yes.
And they should be commended.
Yeah.
In the silent battles of addiction, every hopeful story can be a key to liberation. As we take a quick pause from our chat, I invite you to step through The Door, my memoir in which I give an uncensored account of my journey through drug addiction hell. Each chapter is a testament to the strength we all possess, even when hope seems like a distant light. From the gripping darkness of substance abuse to the uplifting journey towards clarity, my story is laid bare, raw, and real. Whether you are touched by addiction or walk alongside someone who is, your journey to hope can start today. It's available now as an ebook, audiobook, and paperback on TalksTV.Africa. Unlock the narrative that could redefine your understanding of addiction and recovery. Get my book, The Door, by logging into TalksTV.Africa today. Choose the key that fits your lock. Choose life.
So, but I know that you also have online training formats. Yes. How do they?
Well, what we're doing with Cricket SA is we're doing a 4-day intensive, with 30 coaches in a room.
Yes.
And then we follow up with 10 weeks, the systemic wellness practitioner training. And so you then partner with them and use the training to help develop the organization. And then we have monthly supervision with them going forward. That's similar to what we did with the police, with the community peer mentors. The police went and selected 20 volunteers from the community, bring them in, we work with them, and then because a lot of people, they'll go and do a training.
Yes.
And then they'll go back to the toxic environment. And then the toxic environment doesn't
pollutes that.
Pollutes it. So we're trying to do the training and then work with them to integrate the training into
context.
the environment.
Okay. So you take them by hand to that environment.
And so instead of our training being rigid and structured, which people like, but they're not very effective. So our training is very unstructured, and unknown.
Unstructured and unknown.
Unstructured and unknown.
But there's some structure in it.
There's a slight framework.
There's a framework,
But over time, you educate and you learn and you move to a structured environment, and then you can take that forward.
And so it's presented online.
So we present online, we present in person. There's people can do the training for free just by watching videos to get an idea of it. And where we're going with this is we're going to be going to create the licensed recovery coach. So our training's SACO accredited here in South Africa.
Oh, SACO accredited.
But in the Netherlands, we're ISO 17024 compliant, which is International Standard of Operations.
Sure. So you're global, David.
Well, the training is, and the bureaucracy to put all this together is, it's a pain in the arse. And I'm dyslexic, so that adds to this. So it's accredited training. There's to a global standard. In Australia, we're training a whole lot of doctors and nurses and farmers from the outback.
From the outback.
These real kind of Aussie farmers.
So you have a team.
Truth, mate. Want to sit down and talk about our feelings?
You use locals, or you take a team from here.
Well, you can take a team there.
A core team.
But we want to create locals. We want to.
For sure. And part of what you do is obviously to train recovery coaches and to help them become successful. Run their own businesses.
And anyone can become a recovery coach. You don't have to have had a drug problem. Okay. You can, everyone gets impacted by substance abuse.
No, for sure.
Family members.
It doesn't have to be.
And recovery is about what is it that you're getting back? What is you could apply recovery coaching to somebody who's just retired.
This is brilliant. I'm fascinated by recovery coaching.
Good.
And I'm fascinated by what you do.
Thank you.
And the training that you offer. And the fact that you not only offer training, you actually follow them through professionally to support them to make sure that they're successful. How you do that, David?
Passion. Yeah, I guess I love what I do.
So if I get training from you, I get trained today by Ubuntu Addiction Community Trust or your coaching division, and I get certified, and I go and start something. What services do you render to me once I've started? Are there services that you render to me once I've started my professional outfit of
So we've had over 1,700 people come and do the training.
1,700?
Yeah.
Over what period? For the last, 10 years? 5 years?
Well, this is when we started capturing it on our private social media platform.
I see.
Because to get accredited, you got to kind of who's the student, what's the coursework, how they're completing it. So you need to be able to track the student. You can't just. And there are lots of places out there you can do a weekend training. They give you a certificate, and then people go out. So of those 1,700, about 225 have become certified. So say 10-15%. Of those, about 25 can become facilitators. Now, lots of people come for training, thinking that they're going to get work and do things, but actually, once you kind of realize, no, this isn't actually for me. And people are desperate for jobs.
For sure. And they'll do anything.
And they'll do anything. The challenge we have now is to get people to pay for the service. To create a marketplace that people want to make use of this service. Because I mean, basically, we're creating a new skill set for this new kind of economy,
which is needed, by the way.
So we have community peer mentors, volunteers. They then become recovery coaches, peer recovery specialists. Then you can become a professional recovery coach. Then you can become a systemic wellness practitioner, and then a case manager.
A case manager. So what is a case manager?
Well, a case manager manages the case of a particular client. So if I was your case manager, I'd want to make sure that you're seeing a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I want to see how your family's doing. I want to speak to your HR department to see what support you need as a leader. You've gone off into hospital. How are we going to manage you coming back, going back into your role? How do we take things going forward? It's addiction is chaotic.
It's very chaotic.
And you've got to kind of go in there and take an environment that's in crisis, chaos, and conflict, and kind of move it towards. So that's what a case manager will do.
Got you. And then systematic wellness recovery coach?
So a systemic wellness practitioner doesn't have to have any addiction experience, but they need to understand the relationships people have within organizations or families. If you can get the system to operate in a well way, it's good for business. So coming in here this morning, seeing how I was greeted, seeing how everyone's interacting with each other, there's a nice vibe here. There's a nice culture. There's a nice, that is well. And you want to kind of maintain that. And because organizations and people go up and down all the time. So like, I hate it when I go into an organization like a bank and they've got on the walls like, people care, or you come first, and then you've got the bank teller there that's going
that doesn't exist.
There's no unity. So systemic wellness practitioners would go in there and to try and look at the challenges.
Your schools program, David.
So schools program is working with the kids, working with the teachers, and working with the parents. And the work with the...
There's a problem in schools, eh?
Well, the problem in the schools is the teachers and the parents don't listen to the kids. So the school will say, well, come and talk to our kids and tell them not to take drugs. Drugs are bad. And you'll get some bloke come in there that's kind of old and tired like me and
like
you.
Me and you.
I'm gonna say, children, don't do drugs.
And they look at you like,
they go like, you've no idea. But if you go in there and you create a container, you sit them down, you check in, and you say, all right, kids, your parents want us and the school wants us to talk to you about drug addiction. But what do you want to talk about? And then they talk about things like, well, we want to know why teachers are having sex with us. We want to talk about gangsterism. I want to talk about the violence at home. And then And then the problems with the listener.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, our teachers are sleeping with the people. What are we going to do? I mean, one of the schools we were working at, Fatima Merida in West Dean, one of the challenges is there was one of the fathers who was a gang member got shot on the school playground while his kids were in the school, you know, and then to go in there and to try and debrief the pupils and the teachers. It's like, I mean, that's a complex issue.
It is, or the trauma, the anger.
And all you got to do is just go and listen.
Yeah.
You got to listen to the frustration and the anger. And
I went to a school in Benoni, invited by the Department of Education. So they said, come and speak about drugs. So I get there. I said, okay, I like to be early. So I get there early. Kids are in assembly, but there's a lot of police. So they've done a raid and caught some kids with cocaine and stuff like that who were selling drugs on the premise. And our program was following after assembly. About an hour later, our program starts with the Department of Education. And it was incredible because I had to wrestle with the police. I said, look, I'm coming to talk to kids about drugs and you're arresting my very clients that I'm coming to talk to you about. You can't do that, you know. So it was back and forth. Eventually they said,
it's a problem, huh?
There is a serious problem, you know. But why is it important to be tackled at the grassroots level, David?
Well, I think the biggest problem we have is alcohol, for a start. That's the and the solution comes from the community. And the various.
When you say the solution, and sorry to interrupt, when you say the solution comes from the community, you know, about 3-4 weeks ago, I get invited by a friend on a Wednesday. He says, look, there's a funeral on Saturday. This boy was trying to wean himself off of Nyaope, and unfortunately complications took place and he passed away. So they're going to make that funeral a drug awareness day, you know. So I found it fascinating. But somebody spoke, and when they spoke, they said, well, across the street where this kid lives is 2 houses that they call them sneemans, you know, where drugs are being peddled and sold, and they know it. So when you talk about community and getting involved, talk to me about that, David. You said, you know, it's a community. I find it fascinating that we know who are the peddlers, we know where the drug houses are. We know where the shebeens are that are basically admitting kids who are less than 16 years old. What does the community do there?
My personal take on it is you should legalize everything. You should decriminalize and regulate substances and have kind of safe areas for people to use.
So you mean decriminalize everything, like coke, crack, meth?
Everything.
And how would that help? Can you unpack that, David?
Well, how would it help? Well, first of all, you're regulating it. The money and the taxes goes to the government as opposed to criminal behaviour. You're not going to stop people from taking drugs. As soon as you tell someone not to do something, they straight away want to do it. It's a real moral lens to say, well, you can drink alcohol, that's fine, but you can't do that. That's bad. That's just hypocrisy. The amount of people that die on the roads from drunken driving and things like that way exceeds people dying from drug abuse. Our infrastructure's being dismantled daily for people to go and score, and stealing copper wires, things like that. It's in line with what the World Health Organization is saying we should be doing. And as a society, we need to change our thinking around this. You know, the majority of people that are incarcerated in the States because of drug laws, black men. It's completely skewed. I mean, it's not like I'm saying anything new. Portugal decriminalized drugs back in 2000 because of the HIV crisis, and is flourishing. So instead of putting people in jail, you put them in hospital. And then you treat them and educate them. But there's a real conservative lens that is ingrained. You must punish them. Must punish people. And it's not actually that great taking drugs. It's not like, if you've got a good life, you don't actually want to do that. Day in, day out.
Day in, day out.
Hustle.
And the bustle. David, you know...
watching over your shoulder all the time. Who's watching?
You've got a program, you know. I used in the boardroom. I used in my office. You know, I used as an executive, you know, as a board member. I went into board meetings high on drugs. I never heard of a program designed specifically for executives. Can you speak to that?
So the Executive Recovery Coaching Program is going to meet someone where they're at.
Yes.
And someone at your level in boardroom, you're not going to be having the same consequences as somebody who's on the street running around. But the loneliness and the impact that it's having on you. Also, the board members and the organization are going to be in a pickle because they're going to think, oh shit, what if this goes out to the public, to shareholders or whatever that, you know. And a lot of executive coaching, not executive recovery coaching, but just executive coaching, supporting executives in their leadership roles and the pressures that they face between the organization and what the organization needs, what the public needs, what the family needs, puts a lot of pressure, psychological pressure on that individual. And if you say to that individual, you need to go and see a therapist, one, that's kind of stigmatizing. You're saying there's something wrong for me. I'm not depressed. That's that white man's illness. That, like,
now I must go sit with
talk about my feelings. But if you engage in a coaching conversation with that person, and the coach has an understanding of the business context as well, and the role, and how that leader shows up within the organization, the executive can find the conversation therapeutic. So a sports coach coaches professional sportsmen that are at the top of their game. An executive coach coaches an executive that's at the top of their game. A lot of sports people struggle with drink and drugs and women because of whatever reasons, and they need recovery coaching around that.
Before, we're about to wrap up, David, because time is against us.
But it's so important what you're doing here. It's so important to like, you know, just to kind of just break the stigma and to get people to talk.
And that's where I wanted to talk about the stigma. How do you break it, and why is it so important to you that we break the dangers of the stigma that people are struggling with?
So if you don't deal with the stigma, it's going to keep the system split. It's like HIV, People were stigmatized. They didn't know how to talk about sex.
No, for sure.
They didn't know how to talk about condoms. They didn't know how to talk about it. It's like, it's kind of
embarrassing. If you talk about condoms, you're hiding something.
All this, And so it's a stigmatized issue, people getting high. And we need to be able to normalize the conversation, to talk about it. People have mental health issues. And it impacts families everywhere. And as much as I know, my father drank himself to death 18 months ago.
Sure. Sorry to hear that.
It was sad. And 6 months before that, my 26-year-old nephew hung himself in my sister's backyard, And I mean, that stuff's hard. It hurts. It's painful and it's real and it impacts everyone. And so, I mean, I think the hardest thing for me in that is with all the knowledge I have, I still couldn't
Save them.
I tried, yeah. With my father and his alcoholism, I was able to step back and allow him to go through his process, yeah. And he struggled, and my nephew is 26 years old.
Young, eh?
Yeah, he went to Hilton. He had very privileged, but still impacted by this mental health stuff.
David, there's somebody watching here who's struggling, who's having issues, who, they're going, maybe they're at the lowest end of, or maybe they've not even hit rock bottom yet, but what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, I would just like to say I get it's really, really hard, and often just kind of acknowledging how hard it is and just saying, I need some support around that is a great place to start.
How do people contribute to the Ubuntu Trust?
They can go to the website, uac.org.za. If it's a corporate or someone, they want to make a donation that's tax deductible, there's a process. Let's just start talking and see what we can do.
After all that's said and done, why do you think you're here? Just in this world, with all your experiences, with all the challenges of mental health and addiction, and it looks like a never-ending problem.
So I had a vision.
You had a vision?
That I wanted to own a rehab. And I got to that vision, yeah. And then I had a breakdown.
You had a breakdown?
I had a breakdown. I was disillusioned, now what? And then I went off to Soweto and I did a pilgrimage, a 40-day pilgrimage. And I went to go visit various churches in Soweto because I wanted to understand how come the spirit is so strong in black culture, but in my kind of white Anglo-Saxon culture, it's kind of dead. So I started this pilgrimage, and my vision there was, I want to cure the world of addiction because I know I will never achieve that. So I've got a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal that will never be achievable. But I can
work towards it.
Yeah, and the way that we do that is we train people, we empower people, and we treat. Yeah, and now I want to change that vision to something like something around. I want to work with the world in creating recovery for each individual that's been impacted by this.
Whew. I can tell you, safely say to you today, I'm incredibly enriched with the conversation I had with you.
Me too. It's lovely just sitting down and chatting.
I've been saying I need to get you here, I need David here, and you never disappoint, so much wealth of knowledge and experience, and I hope that you will come through again as we explore this minefield, and it's a joy to have you in the studio. I know the work that you do. I know the impact that you've had. I've met many people who've been to SHARP and then now to the Foundation Clinic, and much appreciated for coming. I'm overwhelmed that you're here in the studio, and thank you so much, with the utmost of humility, and I bow to you and thank you so much for being here. We don't have much, I decided to put this book, My Journey with Addiction. This is where I tell it all. But I just want to gift you,
Thank you so much.
This is what birthed this podcast. Just me putting my ups and downs, my decadent lifestyle in the book. And I decided, let me put it here. And somebody picked it up and said, let's do a podcast. And that's why we're here. And I think that it will impact. So just want to gift you with that and say thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to your team and everyone here. Well done.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you once again for joining us. I know this episode is going to transform lives, is going to bring about transformation in many people who will decide, I'm taking a first step to get my life in order. And trust me when we tell you, it's time to choose life. Because remember, life is precious. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, you can start all over again, as long as you never write yourself off. Remember, we are no longer prisoners of the past, but we are pioneers of the new future. So find your feet, choose life. Until next week, your host Abna Mariri says goodbye, we love you, and thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Choose Life, the podcast. Please give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button below. Remember to also click the notification bell so you never miss an update from us. There are more Choose Life conversations on YouTube. Just click on one of the thumbnails on the screen to continue watching. Thanks for choosing us, and we'll see you in the next episode as we choose life together.